If you like collage and fall colors, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Brooke and I'm the BB behind BB Henry Art, and I think you're really going to like this little tutorial on a 2-page spread in my art journal.
Let's get right into it. I like to start out with some pencil scribbles when I'm just staring at a plain white page. As I start here, I'm thinking I may just do the left-hand side, although do end up doing both sides together. So I have those loose pencil scribbles where I'm not thinking about it too much. Really, it just ruins the white page and gets something down so that fear is eliminated. Now with a thin black pen, I'm just making some repetitive marks over and over. My intention is not for these to be totally seen at the end. They're not a focal point. Again, getting something down on the paper, and we're starting out with those first couple layers. Next up, I have some fun fall colored paints here, and I'm going to use those. I'm just using my palette knife to apply them to the page. I'm not using a whole ton of paint here, just a little bit, and wanting to keep some white space so that I can keep things nice and light and airy, even though we're doing some of these darker, rich fall colors. I'm going to add in some collage paper here, and a fun way to add even more marks in is by having them done on another piece of paper and then bringing them in. We don't always have to do the marks directly on our art spread itself, which is really kind of nice because if I had done those black marks over those reds and oranges, it would not show up in the same way. So we can get so many different looks by applying things in a different way. I added a little bit more collage on here, and now with some drywall tape, I'm going to add that in just as another collage element. That's really fun because it has an adhesive backing on it once you take off that back piece of paper, and it makes it a really easy and fast supply to use when you're collaging. I have this is actually wrapping paper here that I have saved. I love the grid on it. And so that is a staple for me in my art practice now. I bought this wrapping paper kind of with that intention, but we do use it for gifts for each other. And then I just save it after it's done. So it's kind of fun to save a dual purpose like that. And just remember that you can always use things not how they're maybe intentioned originally. You can repurpose and reuse. Start looking at things a little bit different and think about how you can use them for your art journaling or mixed media, whatever works. So at this point, I do decide that I want to do both sides of the spread. I'm continuing the right side and adding to it like I started on the left. This will just help me to have some cohesiveness between these two. I want them to appear that they go together. When I do art journal spreads, I tend to do that. I'm really not great about doing just the left or the right and having them totally different colors and themes. But partly that's just how I like to work, where I work in limited color palettes most of the time. And so doing two different color palettes on the left and right actually scares me a little bit. And so this is what I'm most comfortable with. I had not started this thinking I was going to do both sides, but if you feel it, go for it. You don't always have to go with what your original plan is going to be. Staying adaptable and flexible, being willing to change what you first intention actually will help you go further and take more creative steps and progress. When we get too into a limiting belief and zone that we can only do some things, then it's not always super helpful for us. Now, I do like to set some restrictions for myself as I go along, as a few restrictions actually can help your creativity flourish. If you have too many choices, a lot of times you get stuck in what I call decision fatigue, where you cannot decide what to do. You want to do everything and you have to pick, and sometimes that picking and choosing actually stops us from creating anything at all. So getting started, getting in there with those pencil scribbles and just getting going allows me to more easily make my next decision. One decision leads to the next and to the next. I don't know what the page looks like when I start out. I don't have this grand plan. I'm working very abstractly. I'm not doing a landscape or anything realistic here. So I don't need to plan those things out ahead of time. And so that freedom of working abstractly actually really helps me to stay in the moment and think about things as they come along rather than having every single detail planned out. I really like this paint swatch that I had here. I think the colors are just perfect. And so I want to find a way to use it. I'm bringing in a couple different textiles and I'm going to add some stitching. And this is just going to stitch all of these pieces together. One of my best tips for stitching inside your art journal is you don't always have to stitch through the whole page. So you'll see here, I'm going to lift up these pieces and just stitch these ones together. And then I'll take my glue stick and attach this entire cluster down to the page. Yes, I could stitch it onto the page itself from the beginning. It would be a little bit more awkward because I'd be stitching through the page and having to hold it. Plus, you get those stitch marks on the back side. Now, that's not to say I don't ever do it like that, but in this journal where each page starts as a blank slate with just white paper, I don't really want those stitches on the back side. Plus, I'm not ruining the integrity of the paper at all by putting holes into it. I'm just working on this little cluster. Now, you don't end up seeing all of these stitches at the end. I purposefully chose a thread color that really matches what I'm stitching on, and that is just to add more texture. Stitching doesn't always have to be totally seen. It doesn't have to be the focal point or the star of the show, but it's just another way to get more dimension with whatever you're working on. More texture is always great for me. I love having some of that fabric on the right side, and so now I'm going to glue this down and think about having a small piece on the left-hand side as well. I'll just be using a regular glue stick here since it's in my journal. I don't need anything super strong. The journal's going to get closed after I'm done and I can carry on to the next thing. I would probably consider something stronger if I was working not inside of a journal. Adding in that fabric on the left, and just like that, we're finished. It was a quick one today. I hope that you enjoyed it. See you next time.